If you own a UK LLP and you do not live in the United Kingdom, you've probably already discovered the biggest secret in UK banking. This is a big one. Your accountant, your corporate service provider, they don't want you to know this. And it's that UK banks, they do not want UK companies owned by foreigners. But if that's you, I'm going to tell you how to avoid rejection and reveal the 6 mistakes that are stopping you from opening a UK bank account for your UK company as a foreign non-resident. In case this is your first time on the channel, my name is Chris and I'm the head of banking relationships here at GlobalBanks. We help entrepreneurs and investors solve cross-border banking challenges, including opening accounts for UK entities like UK limited companies and UK limited liability partnerships, or LLPs. And in this video, I'm going to be focusing exclusively on UK LLPs. And there are 2 big reasons why I want to talk to you about LLPs. First is that they're one of the most widely promoted structures in the offshore, internationalization, and online business communities. And that means that lots of people from around the world are being encouraged to set up UK LLPs as a way to access a credible country of registration, tax-efficient corporate structure, cost-effective and reliable payment processing, as well as UK banks. Which is all fine until we get to the second reason that I want to talk to you about LLPs. And that is that these entities are notoriously difficult to bank, especially if you want to open accounts remotely as a foreign non-resident. And that's a problem, because if you can't open a bank account for your UK LLP, then you're not going to be able to take advantage of the other many benefits that sold you on setting up a UK LLP in the first place. Of course, no one tells you opening a bank account is going to be hard until after you register the company. So if you haven't already set up your LLP, consider this your warning. Okay, let's get the big question out of the way, which is, can you open a bank account for a non-resident UK LLP? And the short answer is yes, but you are going to face some difficulties. And like I said, there are 6 mistakes that foreign non-residents they keep making when applying for bank accounts for their LLPs. And if you want to avoid rejection and successfully open a bank account, you will need to overcome each of them. Now, this does apply to both in-person opening as well as remote account opening. So whether you're trying to open online or you're looking to get on a plane, this is all going to apply to you. So let's dig into the first mistake, which is not having sufficient ties to the UK. Now, like banks in most countries, UK banks, they want to understand your reason for banking in the UK. And in most cases, this means that they want to see clear ties to the United Kingdom for your company, and this can range from customers to suppliers, as well as shareholders, directors, or ideally operations and offices. And if you don't have these sorts of ties, it can be very difficult to open accounts, especially if you're trying to do so remotely. Now, the cheat code to overcoming this mistake, it's pretty straightforward. Establish ties. How you go about that and the specific ties that you will get, it does depend on your business, your available resources, and what you're optimizing for. Though it is important to point out that getting ties is only half the battle. You also have to prove those ties, which typically means having contracts, invoices, or other supporting documentation. All right, now let's take a look at mistake number 2, and this is a big one. And it is not having a UK address, or rather not having the right UK address. Now, it's important to point out that UK addresses, they are not as easy to navigate as addresses in other countries. And one of the main reasons for this is that most UK banks will not accept mail forwarding addresses. If you compare that to the United States, where certain foreign non-residents are able to open PO boxes or even foreign addresses, you can start to understand why the UK is more difficult for banking, especially for remote opening. Now, anyone that's tried to open a UK account, they probably know there's 2 parts to this. The first part is a personal address, and the second part is the company address. In terms of personal address, what I'm referring to is a UK residential address for the shareholders or directors. UK banks, they want to see this, and if you're a foreign non-resident, chances are you don't have it. On top of that, if your country of residence is listed in Companies House as Malta, Germany, Panama, or any other country, it's probably going to raise red flags when you provide them with a UK address, since this is going to be inconsistent with your filing information. Now, technically, you can acquire an address through a wide range of providers in the UK. So the real question isn't about acquiring an address, it's about proving the address. And that brings us to mistake number 3. And that's not being able to provide an acceptable UK proof of address to the bank. And unfortunately, unlike other countries, acquiring a proof of address in the UK can be very difficult. There are a few reasons for this, including that utility providers are very difficult to access, UK banks very rarely accept private agreements, and it's become very challenging to obtain an acceptable proof of address remotely. For this reason, we typically tell our clients not to acquire any UK address until they've confirmed the specific requirements of the bank that they're trying to open with. with. In other words, confirm what sort of address banks are willing to accept, and only then go about obtaining an address and the required proof to meet the bank's requirements. So what is an accepted proof of address? Well, the short answer is the sort of documents you'd expect. Bank statements, utility bills, credit card statements, tenancy agreements in certain instances, and other official documents. But again, these are hard to obtain, so in most cases, for non-residents, they need to consider less common options, and that usually means finding creative ways to obtain them. Now, the fourth mistake is probably the hardest to overcome, and it's one of the big reasons that many people end up never opening an account for their UK LLP. But before sharing, if you're getting any value out of this sort of video that specifically focuses on UK LLPs, can you do me a favor and give this video a like? That way we know we should keep making more videos like this for you going forward. Okay, so now the fourth mistake that most people make is that they do not have a UK-based business representative. And this is going to be particularly difficult if you're trying to bank with one of those mid-sized UK banks. And the reason for this is pretty simple. UK banks, they want someone that they can contact, speak to, even question when it comes to banking activities such as transactions and transacting parties. Basically, they want someone that they can call and hold responsible for the business within the UK. This isn't just a problem for small businesses either. We've helped entrepreneurs generating tens of millions in revenue with the banking needs for their UK subsidiaries navigate this problem as well. Though when a local subsidiary is involved, most businesses are looking to set up an office, hire staff, and, this is the important part, appoint management with signing authority over a bank account. And that's the key point. You don't necessarily need to live in the UK, but someone representing the business with authority over the bank account usually does. Of course, there are exceptions in certain instances, depending on the bank you approach and your specific business activities. But if you do end up bringing on a local business representative, you might be wondering how that impacts your tax optimized structure. And that's a great question for the accountant that told you to set up a UK LLP in the first place. All right, now the fifth mistake is the easiest to fix, but it's also one of the most common that we see, and that is not using a VPN to connect to your UK bank account. And this applies both during the application phase as well as after the account is open and you're looking to use your account. Of course, this can depend on the bank or even the digital platform that you choose to use, and that's because different UK financial institutions and fintech platforms, they have different policies about accessing accounts from abroad. So many foreign non-resident owners of UK LLPs and even expats with UK personal accounts, they choose to access their accounts using a VPN with a consistent IP address often set to a major UK city. That way, the bank where the account is held, it sees the same IP address when accessing the account, and it isn't accidentally alerted to a security threat because you're accessing it from a foreign country every other week. All right, now after I share the final mistake, I'm also going to tell you about another popular company structure that we see foreign non-residents using that is significantly easier to bank, and it often benefits from enhanced privacy and 0% corporate tax. But first, mistake number 6, and that is not having a UK phone number. And before you roll your eyes, this is really important. In fact, this is going to be critical if you're planning on using any digital banking platforms or even cross-border FX platforms for international transfers. In most cases, you are going to be required to provide a local UK phone number. And if you do plan on opening with a brick and mortar UK bank, having an active UK phone number is also essential to managing your account. And the reason for this is pretty simple. Many UK banks, they require you to receive and respond to SMS codes for identity verification or even to unlock accounts anytime they're frozen for security or compliance reasons. So if you accidentally engage in what the bank might consider high-risk behavior, say logging into your account while you're abroad, then the bank may freeze your account. And if you don't have access to that UK phone number that the bank has on file, you might have to get on a plane to go and unlock the account in person. Of course, there are a number of other mistakes that you need to avoid as well, though if you're able to overcome the 6 that I just mentioned, you should be able to navigate all of the other challenges that you're going to face. But like I said, there's another structuring option that provides easier access to banking, access to payment processing, enhanced privacy, and low, possibly zero taxes. But before I share that with you, I want to quickly wrap up UK LLP banking by talking about where you should open bank accounts for your LLP. So where should you bank? Which banks will accept your LLP? Well, we typically divide the available options into 3 categories for non-residents, which are non-resident in-person banking options, non-resident remote banking options for LLPs with less than $1 million in revenue, non-resident remote banking options for LLPs with above $1 million in revenue, and there are also 2 other categories, which include last resort UK banking options. Basically, if you can't access any of the options I just mentioned and you desperately need a UK bank account, this is where you might be able to bank. And lastly, there are also foreign and offshore banks that are willing to bank a UK LLP if you can meet the deposit requirements. In total, there are about 30 banks that fall into these categories. And if you want to access all 30, along with more details on how to overcome each of the mistakes that I just shared, you can access all of that and much more through GlobalBanks IQ, which you can learn more about at globalbanks.com/IQ. On the other hand, if you're in the mood to explore other structuring options, the company structure that I've been referring to in this video is the US LLC. It has a lot of the same benefits that the UK LLP offers, along with a number of additional perks. And not surprisingly, the US LLC is another very popular option in the internationalization, offshore, and online business communities, and for good reason. It's a great option for foreign non-residents, especially those with customers in the US or even plans on expanding to the United States. Plus, it's very affordable in terms of both setup and maintenance, and there are a number of banking options that the owners of these companies can access remotely. Now, as always, before deciding if a particular structure is right for you, you need to do your own research and speak with a qualified advisor. But if you want a head start in terms of banking options for a US LLC, including deposit amounts, the types of banks you can access, and how to go about opening these bank accounts 100% remotely, you can click here and get all those details in a recent video that I just published. So go ahead, click that, and I'll see you right over there.